Dave, I'm fascinated that people can be so controlled that they voluntarily participate in the RPF. I've been doing some of my own research online and discovered there's an RPF's RPF. Yikes! Stories of malnourishment, illness, no medical care, no sleep, fighting rats and cockroaches, all even worse than the actual RPF. Did you ever have to do the RPF's RPF or witness any of these human rights abuses beyond regular RPF activities? Thanks for your question, Dave. And this is another one of those great big topics that I could literally, and am going to literally write a book about. So I'm only going to skim this question and not go into all the nitty-gritty details that I know, because it would take up this entire show and more. On the RPF, on the Rehabilitation Project Force, which is the Sea Org's rehabilitation prison camp, Maoist reconditioning system, you have punishments. You have what's called rocks and shoals, which are punishments that people will be given if they are not getting their work done, if they're not moving fast, if they're found slacking off, or committing errors and just not getting with the program and doing the program in the way it's supposed to be done. That means, if you're not running everywhere, if this kind of thing, you can get in trouble. The lightest form of the rocks and shoals is dropping and giving 25 push-ups or something, right? If you're not, moving fast or something like that, that's sort of an immediate, drop and give me 20, or take a lap where you have to then go run around the building, right? Something like that. It's called taking a lap. And if you get, people get assigned laps all day, every day. I mean, I got hundreds of times I was assigned laps. Now, if a person does something that indicates that they are really not with the program, right? Like it's already stringent enough and bad enough with all the rules and regulations of the RPF. But if you screw up really bad or do something blatantly against the rules, I mean, let's say you are found stealing from somebody else's locker, or you commit adultery on the RPF, like have sexual relations with somebody else on the RPF, which has definitely happened. Because when you're on the RPF, there's none of that, right? Even if your wife is there with you, you guys are in separate dorms and you might as well not be married. There's no touchy, feely, none of that. So if you're found to have been doing that with your wife or not, or if you say, hey, look, I want to leave, I don't want to do this anymore, I want to go, during the duration of the time that they're dealing with you wanting to leave, you're going to be, all of these things will put you onto the RPF's RPF. And that is where you have to earn your way back into the RPF. So it gets pretty rough, because they're supposed to have even less mealtime and even less benefits, if you can believe that, and even tougher, more stringent conditions. And there's sort of segregated from the RPF. They have their own little area, and that's where you get the cockroaches and rats and stuff, is they get the most degraded, horrible, awful places to sleep and work, and you got to earn your way out of that by doing above and beyond work that is above and beyond, and then writing it all down. You're atoning, and you're very contrite and very sorry, and this is called a liability formula in Scientology, where you have to recognize that you were an enemy of the group and not a good person, and you have to what's called deliver an effective blow to the enemies of the group one has been pretending to be part of, despite personal danger. So then that's a direct quote of step 2 of the liability formula. So then you have to do that. You have to somehow do something, and that's usually interpreted to mean that you have to handle somebody else, or you have to do something with someone else to get them straightened out, right? And because, by the way, because when you do the RPF, you're twinned up with somebody else. You and somebody else get each other through the whole RPF program. That's called your twin. If you go to the RPF's RPF, your twin's going with you, regardless of whether he did anything or she did anything wrong or not. So generally speaking, when they do that effective blow step, they do something with their twin, or they, or maybe let's say you're on the RPF's RPF, and there's a guy, Joe, who wants to leave the Sea Org, and he's done with this whole thing. He's like, I'm not doing this anymore. Well, you might take a crack at him and try to get him to agree to stay. And if you do, and if he does agree, then that's a feather in your cap, to the degree that you can say you delivered an effective blow to the enemy, right? By handling Joe to stay in the Sea Org, and you've salvaged a Sea Org member. Then you have to make up the damage that you've done by personal contribution far beyond the ordinary demands of a group member. That's your step 3. And that step involves doing more and more work. And the RPF's RPF is given very menial tasks, like setting up the dining area where the RPF come in and eat, washing all their dishes, doing their laundry. I mean, this is stuff the RPF's RPF does. And so they have to, basically tough it out and do extra work to then write all this down on a piece of paper and submit it to every single person who's in the regular RPF and get their agreement that you can come back and be in the RPF. I mean, like it's some vaunted position that you just can't wait to get back into. But that's the mindset. If you're going to get through the program, you got to do the program. And the only way to get through it is to do it. And so, you got to do all those steps. Otherwise, you're giving up and leaving. And a lot of people do that. In fact, a higher percentage of people who go into the RPF end up leaving than graduating. And it's kind of a perverse point of pride I have, that I actually toughed it out and got through that thing. It's kind of a little sick, because the best thing for me at that point would have been to leave. But I don't know. I have a lot to write about in my book on that when I finally get the time to get that done, because there's a lot to say about the mindset. It's not a black and white, easy to understand thing. So I hope to be able to convey that in a lot more detail when I actually get the chance to write all that out. So I hope this gives you a little bit of an insight, though, into that RPF's RPF, what it's all about and how you get out of it, and how bad Scientology and the Sea Org can get, because that's how bad it can get.